Welcome to Smeg and the Femmes, podcast to discuss Red Dwarf from a different perspective. I'm Janamali, and today I'll be talking about Series 4, Episode 6, Meltdown. So, hi again to Veronica Rich and RoseCathy.
Howdy.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, now this is obviously a significantly less popular episode than Dimension Jump, which we just talked about for several reasons. But I do think the idea that it's particularly unpopular is exaggerated. I mean, basically, it originates from a fan club episode poll where it came last. But that poll was taken in the early 90s when only about 5 or 6 series existed. There's absolutely no way that it would come last today.
This series 8 exists.
Yes. I mean, there are entire series that it will be in front of for a start.
Yeah, I don't really, even at the time I first watched it, I didn't, I heard afterwards that it wasn't popular, but I didn't really get that. I didn't really know why.
I thought it did. I thought it did what Red Dwarf and what good science fiction does well was it took some real life thing and put a lens on it that makes you look at it differently than other shows do. Kind of like the old Star Trek episode about racism where everybody paints their face different sides. This one doesn't use real people. It uses sentient wax droids, but it kind of makes a similar point about a different thing.
Yeah. I do want to say. I mean, although obviously I'm going to address, the sort of from an in-universe sort of characterization viewpoint, out of universe. This episode apparently was originally supposed to air first in Series 4. But the reason it didn't, you probably both already know, was because at the time the first Gulf War was on, and basically they weren't allowed to air episodes that had this kind of theme.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was during, and they also weren't allowed to wear Dimension Jump, because it had a heroic military figure. So basically, what happened was, fortunately, while Series 4 was airing, the war came to an end. So basically, they just shoved Dimension Jump and Meltdown on the end of the series, even though they weren't originally intended to. I don't know whether it's a question of they put the most controversial one at the very end, but I've always thought it was a bit of a shame because Dimension Jump would have made such a lovely series finale.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, from the perspective of Meltdown always feels an ending on a downer.
Yeah.
Of a wonderful high. But I mean, and it's not fair on Meltdown because it is a genuinely good episode. But it's not the fault of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In order of airing, I was wondering if Ace's appearance in the last episode kind of stirred Rimmer's military ambitions anew, because you opened with the whole Risk thing, and then the rest of the episode, obviously.
You wonder, yeah. I mean, this is leaping ahead, but I mean, I did actually wonder whether, buried somewhere deep in his subconscious, he saw how Lister reacted to Ace. Kind of subconsciously wanted to impress him, maybe. I mean, I know it's a bit of a stretch, and I don't think it would have definitely been subconscious, but you could argue, I guess,
Not really. No, I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of things which are definitely not the fault of the episode, I want to get this over and done with first because something which we now know, which unfortunately kind of spoils a part of the episode, and obviously I'm talking about Elvis's actor and what we now know about him. Well, for the benefit of people who don't know, he was recently jailed for rape. Which obviously kind of spoils the bits where Elvis appears. And unfortunately, Elvis is basically more or less the main guest star of the episode. He's very prominent. You really, I mean, people after this came out said, "Well, why don't they cut out his scenes?" And I was like, "Have you watched the episode? He's marbled through it. I mean, he sings the damn theme tune. You can't cut his scenes out. You cut the episode to ribbons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which, to be fair, even when I first saw it, I wasn't that impressed with the actors. So
Really?
I feel too bad.
It's interesting because and again, obviously this is not the fault of anybody concerned because obviously they couldn't know. But in the audio commentary, everybody loves him.
Yeah.
That whole throwing in, thank you very much, constantly, which I understand rule of funny, but still it got old real fast. And his kind of, I don't know how to say it. I feel like they could have thrown in a bit more nod to military bearing. He could still be Elvis, but still have some military bearing, because I feel like they forgot that Elvis actually served in the army. So I don't know. There's just something about him at the time that I watched it. I didn't dislike him. There's just something about the performance that, I don't know, kind of rubbed me wrong. I don't know how to say it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is supposed to be like a comedy version of Elvis, not like
Mm-hmm.
like a authentic sort of like.
No, Boz Luhrmann wasn't directing that one.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I mean, I used to find his performance funny, but I mean, I did wonder how it would feel, when I rewatched, knowing what I now know, and basically, I just can't find it funny. I just sort of sit there stony faced every time he says anything. It's just blank, unfortunately, But I mean, it doesn't spoil the rest of the episode for me, So I mean, there you go.
I think in the age of Me Too, we're finding a lot of performances that you look back on that you used to like, that now you watch it and you're like,
yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Well, in terms of guest stars, there's Tony Hawk's, right? Which I don't know anything terrible about him.
No, he's lovely.
I was going to say, I do want to. Well, later on, when we get to that bit, I still love Tony Hawk's performance. And as far as I know, he's not a creep. So
That's great. That's good.
Okay, but let's begin at the beginning. Which is Rimmer boring everybody to tears with his anecdote.
I am completely smegging ungripped.
I love how he said that.
Best quote.
Oh my gosh.
It's very relatable because we've all. I think we've all at some stage in our life, been stuck with someone telling an interminable rambling anecdote which they think is gripping, and it's just not.
And it's satisfying in a way, I think, because in real life it would not be as easy, I think, to come out and say, like, you are boring me to death, like, to someone like you're supposed to be socializing with, So when Lister says that, like, it's kind of, I don't know.
But then you have Rimmer like completely like ignoring it, so it makes it easier to say it to someone like that, probably.
I love, I had forgotten about this bit too, but I love how Rimmer like kind of tries to reel him in. It's like, don't you want to know what happened? I could have shoved the dice up.
I'm just wondering why the cat's there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think actually the reason the cat's there so that they could have the joke with. Cat, you talk to him, and then what? Till it turns out he's wearing earplugs.
Well, no, obviously for the scene, but I'm just saying, Cat himself, like, what in the world is he doing sitting there listening to Cavern Nostrils talk about risk campaigns?
I mean, well, I guess he can't hear him, so he's just sitting there doing his thing.
He's just there to support Lister.
Oh yeah, actually, it's nice. It's a nice thought that he might be there for more support.
They're like going to go do something fun. Lister's like, yeah, but first we got to do this for 20 minutes. Just.
So and then of course we have Crupton arriving with a matter paddle. I mean, interesting that he says he just kind of found it in the research labs on the ship.
I find it really interesting how the JMC scientists came up with a matter transporter a couple of centuries before the United Federation of Planets. That's pretty cool.
Good for them.
Did they steal it from the Vulcans when they came for first contact? I don't know.
It's possible. Good for Crichton, I guess, for managing to fiddle around with it and get it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course we get the bit where Crichton says, "Well, I think Mr. Rimmer and I should, go ahead in the scout party because the atmosphere isn't breathable, we won't be affected." And Rimmer is like, "What?" And of course, obviously, the joke is that he's just been going on and on and on about military strategy and so on, and yet as soon as anything even remotely hazardous happens, he's like, "I'm out of here."
Mm-hmm.
It's funny the way Crichton and Holly basically gang up on Rimmer and make him go by turning him back into his light beam.
Well, and it's a good way to introduce the light
Yeah.
bee. Is this the first time we've seen the light bee and had it kind of explained to us?
I believe so.
Yes, yeah, I think this is the introduction of light bee. Oh, and by the way, I want to say shout out to Hattie the way she delivers the line. Well, of course you do have a small physical presence.
Only she could have done that.
Yeah.
Yes, it occurs to me that I probably didn't give fangirl enough about Hattie's performance as Melly in the previous episode because she's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you see her for 2 minutes, and I'm like, why wasn't the whole episode about her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of sort of latched onto her, thought I really love this character,
She really needs her own Queeg episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have already recorded the White Hole commentary, and there is a lot more Hattie fangirling in that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it will come out in due course. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I suppose we wouldn't be worth our metal as a Slash podcast if we didn't comment on the fact that Stu's reaction to Rimmer being turned into a light bee is to put him in his mouth.
And then spit him out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I know part of it is kind of Craig's way he is as a person. He likes putting things in his mouth. And I'm not saying that in a fabulous kind of way. He just does, he does it in the show on other occasions. For instance, when Holly points out to him he's got a sweet in his pocket, he immediately puts it in his mouth. So
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, it's kind of an interesting reaction to have to that's
Yeah.
interesting in a gross way, but still interesting.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so we should probably get on to Wax World itself. So on the arrival, I like the way they're just suddenly just suddenly there, and they literally just establish, okay, the atmosphere is breathable. They send the paddle back, and then 2 seconds later, dinosaurs. Do love how incredibly crappy the dinosaurs are.
They are great.
They're clearly not even trying to make it look like they are actually in the same space.
Right.
They're the dinosaurs.
Apparently they're from a 60s Japanese monster movie.
I think I've seen the movie.
Oh yeah.
They're from on MST3K.
Oh wow.
I'm pretty sure I have at some point.
Yeah, it's just as quite more or less points out, they wouldn't scare a child, although they do scare Rimmer, mind you.
I was gonna say, Rimmer runs pretty fast. He can give Tom Cruise a run for his money.
Yeah, gosh,
So I like how
yeah.
Crichton's like trying to warn him, and then he turns and it's the old comedy bit.
Love
He's
that,
already,
you know, Crichton's warning, "Oh, sir," and then Rivers are running
yeah.
to the other end of the field. It's really very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and then of course that we then get Mr. and Kat immediately landing what we think is the middle of the Third Reich.
The second of three appearances of Hitler in this series, no less.
Yeah, I mean they I mean I would say they really like Hitler. It sounds entirely wrong, but they really like featuring Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
I
notable.
say that, this Hitler is unfortunately I have been spoiled by Ryan Gage. He's just nowhere near as good.
Yeah.
To be fair, obviously he's supposed to be a wax droid. He's not supposed to be the actual Hitler. So, I mean, I guess you could excuse him being slightly crap. It is funny the way for the first 10 minutes or so of this episode. If you haven't seen it before, you're like, what the hell is going on? I mean, is this place? I mean, because it's just it's such a complete kind of to mind fuck for want of a better phrase.
Yep. I noticed when they're in that scene, one of the things that was pointed out, they show up in the fireplace and they're standing there discussing Hitler and the rest of them. And Lister, I just wanted to say, it kind of highlights for me an unfortunate tendency in old media. I mean, not even that old, 30, 40 years old, to focus on drag as a way to stick a pin in frightening men throughout history, like Herman Goering, J. Edgar Hoover, and others.
Yeah.
I get it's meant to use comedy as a tool to lessen their power and take them down a few pegs, but I'm struggling to think as being a drag dresser as having been used to illustrate a facet of personality for any positive historical figure.
Right.
It
does come up a lot, yeah.
Basically, I mean, the actual historical figure was horrendous, but liking to dress in women's clothing was not a reason he was horrendous. I mean,
right. And look at the previous episode where Rimmer, one of the negative things he's saying about Ace is, he likes to dress in taffeta and whip the houseboy and all. And it's like, for the time, obviously, I think and it's Lister bringing it up. I mean, Lister's the one pointing this out. Lister is from the year 2100 something. So it just, I just know it's just a neat way it's kind of an interesting way to highlight what would look like progressive in 1990 as what looked like progressive here in 2022 to make a character progressive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, inevitably, anything you make which is set in the future, is inevitably going to date once you actually are
get to
in the future. Yeah. That's kind of unavoidable. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But it was just an interesting way to highlight the difference between writing in 1990 as opposed to writing in 2022. I don't think this line of dialogue would be in there. I don't think this through line would not be in it. Hopefully, no.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. I mean, admittedly, Dave Vera has been sort of patchy in that respect, but I mean, I hope not.
Right.
Okay, so I do want to get onto this wonderful scene we get where Lister and Kat are in the jail cell, basically the Winnie the Pooh.
Craig's acting is just so good throughout it.
It's just such a wonderful scene, and it was just such a great decision, to just focus on Lister's face, and tell the whole story through his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
filmed the rest of it.
He's still so young looking here, and so I mean, it's kind of more effective, seeing him react to that, whereas that is something no one should ever have to see.
And Kat's repeated, "Hey, if you mean torture, buddy, just say it. I can say it. Okay, I mean torture."
No. Yeah, I love Kat here.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the way Kat sort of panics here, I mean, because I have seen some people say, that in the Dave era, he's not as cool as he used to be, and he panics more and stuff. But I mean, I think there were always kind of inklings of it, and this is one of them, When I say cool, I mean, cool in a very sort of people's idea of cool, so to speak.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to say actually, Kat's outfit in this scene. I mean, I know his outfits are always great, but it's spectacular. I love it with the glittery trousers and everything.
I think Kat's always had. I think Kat, like Rimmer, has a sense of self-preservation. He's just not cowardly. I mean, he uses it better than Rimmer does. Like, if Kat is afraid, you're in deep smeg.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
He's not. I mean, Kat is less self-conscious about admitting that he's afraid, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the way they sort of the scene transitions in this episode. It's unusual the way they chose to sort of cut back and forth between the different camps.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the fades.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Sort of the music and the way it suddenly sort of cuts between one camp and the other camp. Actually, it kind of reminds me of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. They have kind of scene wipes like that as well.
And then what's with the other production touches? I noticed I had actually put that into the fades that you brought up, and then I also mentioned the extreme facial close-ups throughout the entire episode, and kind of some interesting camera angles.
Oh yeah, like in the parade where we get this extreme close up on Rimmer's face. We actually get a lot of extreme close ups of Rimmer, and some of Lister too. Yeah, it's an interesting choice. Oh yeah, yeah.
I really like the little bit where he's coming out to inspect the troops, and it's like, is it Einstein's face? It's really close up on.
It's Einstein, yeah.
Where he comes out.
Yeah.
So some sort of interesting directorial choices here.
And then the white blood for the wax.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's going to be, but I don't think of it obviously until it happens. And it's like, oh, I didn't think of that,
Yeah, right. They are just wax, yeah.
So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Apparently it was actually yogurt, which makes sense.
No.
Yeah.
Sure.
Caligula.
Yeah, Caligula. I love Caligula, but can we sort of do you mind if we sort of do it in order? We haven't quite got to Caligula yet.
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's the episode. The part of the episode where we're introduced to the good guys. Where Rimmer and Crichton are suddenly arrested by Elvis and an oddly aggressive Pope. Yeah, I mean it's so unfortunate, retrospectively, that we focused so heavily on Elvis, because I mean, there's so many other characters, good guy characters, that they could have focused on, like Einstein, Pythagoras, Marilyn, even. I mean, it's just unfortunate, yeah.
I always just figured Rob and Doug really liked him. I don't know.
I assume so, yeah. I do like the way Einstein is getting really, really, really irritated with Pythagoras and his triangles.
Not everything can be solved with triangles. I like math. I beg to differ, sir.
Yeah, some of the choices for like who is good and who is bad are interesting. Like in the bad camp, there's James Last. It's just,
yeah, I mean,
the thing at Rivers Taste in Music. But then like on the good side, you have like Queen Victoria. I felt like that was kind of an odd choice.
It's kind of, borderline. I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people would say, hold on, she's on the wrong side there, I mean, I wouldn't personally, but I mean, I would kind of put her more in a neutral camp, but obviously there isn't a neutral camp, so,
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting they went with Queen Victoria instead of, like, Queen Elizabeth I. Like, I don't know what the internal politics of the UK are, but, yeah.
That's true. Why not? Why not someone else? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess the reason, I mean, it might be as simple as, you know, maybe it was just easier to find someone who impersonated Queen Victoria rather than Elizabeth I. I'm not sure. I mean, it could easily be Elizabeth I. I mean, it's probably as recognisable to your average Brit as Queen Victoria. So I mean, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, while we're going through the good guys, I do like Noel Coward, even though he only gets about 2 lines.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, we're so mean to him.
He gets such a tiny spell, tiny bit.
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say, it's so ironic, you know, that we know from what we know about Rimmer would love to embrace his inner Noel Coward, you know, but he's just far too self-hating.
Yes, sadly.
Yeah. So I do love the "Delighted to meet you, dear boy" line.
Oh, yeah.
And throwing Stan Laurel in. I wonder who liked Stan Laurel. This was kind of an odd.
I think partly the actor who played him was in a double act with one of the other guest stars who in another episode or something. So it might just have been, you know, that he was around and available at the time. I'm not sure. Well, I suppose Stan Laurel is he recognisable to your average Brit. I mean, he was actually British, you know. So I mean, I guess that could be the reason. Yeah.
Good point.
Uh-huh. Okay, so going back to Cat and Lister in their jail cell. Of course, before the wonderful scene, which we will get to in a second, we do meet Lincoln.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, admittedly, I mean, I don't know that much about Lincoln. You know, being a Brit. I mean, I know, you know, he's considered on the good side, so to speak. But why did the actor choose to have him shout all his lines?
I don't know. I wondered the same thing about some of the lines the Elvis actor did. I wonder if all the dialogue was written by Robin Doug for all of these characters, or if the ones who were like professional impersonators, if they let them kind of choose their own mannerisms and catchphrases and whatnot.
That might be it. You know, I mean, obviously Elvis was a professional impersonator, and a lot of them were. You know, professional impersonators of the character they were playing. You know, so I mean, it was what they did all the time. So I mean, you know, yeah.
Maybe they did that with the Lincoln actor too. They were just like, okay, you know, play this however.
I mean, you know, maybe
he would.
Okay, just show up and do your thing.
Well, Lincoln was an orator. I mean, he was known as an orator. And back when he lived, they didn't have microphones, so he would have had to have had a very projecting voice, loud voice. I'm probably giving way too much credit here, but just trying to think of why maybe.
That may just have been how the actor and/or like Robin Doug thought of Lincoln as speaking. Like, I don't know that much about like, you know, what he was actually like, but I think that is the perception. Basically, as you said, like there were no microphones back then. He was known for giving these like speeches. So
yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. So obviously, you know, I mean, he while we're sort of switching back and forth between camps, Lincoln helpfully catches up Cat and Lister on, you know, what's going on. You know, the fact that they're fighting a wax war, and then okay, let's get to it. Let's get to the wonderful scene with Caligula, because I love it. One of those scenes where, I mean, it's just sort of classic from beginning to end. You just wish it was longer.
Yeah.
He definitely has a lot of ass-based punishments.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, of course, Tony Hawk's, you know, sort of regular guest star in minor parts, you know. But I mean, I think this is definitely his peak, you know. I mean, it was, if I recall, it's the last appearance he actually makes in the series, you know. And I mean, it's you know, he maybe for 40 he couldn't top it because, you know, it's just so, you know. You know, the way just, you know, sort of Cat pisses him off, so he shouts, "Silence, scum!" and starts slapping Lister instead.
Great comedy, but I don't know why he keeps slapping Lister.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I mean, I know this is me being a slasher, but I mean, there is, I think, just a slight sort of homoerotic vibe in the way he focuses on Lister, because his threatened torture, is aimed at Lister, and I mean, I know it's sort of, supposed to be sort of comedically ridiculous, the threats he makes, and you don't really take them seriously, but there's a slight vibe there.
Yeah.
But I love the way Lister just finally loses patience and shouts, "Shut up at Cat!"
Yeah, shut the Smeg up. Or maybe the only other thing I could think is maybe Caligula thinks Lister is Cat's weak spot. Like, oh well, if I hit him, if I hit your friend, you'll shut up. But he doesn't know Cat.
Yeah,
that's true. He doesn't realise that he's dealing with a human cat.
A cat, yeah.
I did wonder though. I mean, of course, how wonderful the scene is. It doesn't matter, but I do kind of wonder why they didn't give Rasputin any dialogue at all. Just a bit odd the way he just sort of stands there and says actually absolutely nothing.
Yeah, because Rasputin was, so well known for his shy, retiring reputation.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit odd to have him just stand there, and look sullen.
menacing.
Oh.
Maybe they were going for like a mysterious vibe or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the Caligula scene is probably the highlight of this episode for me. I mean, it's just hilarious. I love it. Okay, so switching back to the Rimmer and Crichton over in the camp with the good wax droids, and good in inverted commas. I mean, although I think most people would agree that the majority of these wax droids were generally speaking good people. Maybe not all of them, but the majority. Yeah. So I'm just going to call them that for convenience's sake. So then we see them explaining to Rimmer and Crichton what's going on, and you could literally see the wheels moving in Rimmer's head. My God, it's my destiny arriving.
Oh.
I love the way he said where Crichton says who, and he says me. Who do you think, Pat Boone? Such a random person to pick.
What are your thoughts on the idea that Rimmer went a little bit funny, and did as much as he did because of Lister putting his light bee in his mouth earlier, and so he went I don't know. What do you think of that explanation? Because I think is that he wouldn't have been as bad if Lister hadn't put his light bee in his mouth.
Yeah,
made mess something up.
Well, I mean, I know why they put it in, obviously, because they thought, well, hold on, maybe we're going a bit far here, and we need to put in something to explain it a bit. I like the fact they put it in because I prefer not to think that Rimmer wouldn't have acted this badly if there wasn't something affecting him a bit, but. I don't know. On the other hand, it does kind of feel a little bit like letting him off the hook. I mean, I'm kind of ambiguous about it. Vera, how do you feel about it?
I'm just thinking. I'm cheating and jumping ahead. I'm thinking of Officer Rimmer episode, and nobody was. I mean, presumably nobody was deep throating the light bee before the episode. He kind of acts that way on his own.
Yeah,
he's given a little bit of power.
Definitely has a potential. We see before this that he subscribes to Dictators Monthly or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
You give a little power is a bad thing to give a Rimmer. I feel like.
Exactly. Yes. I think probably the reason they thought they had to put it in is because obviously, even though we know that the wax droids are not human, they look very human, and we actually see them all die. So I mean, I think they probably thought that they were going a bit far, and they needed to put that line in as a bit of an explanation. I mean, I imagine that's what they did.
They keep making the line, they keep saying the line, broke their programming, broke their programming. And I sort of wonder if that's supposed to be a little bit of a callback because it's deliberately echoing, the way Lister's been working on Crichton trying to break his programming.
Yeah.
And it comes up again and again throughout the series. And you kind of see, I mean, Rimmer kind of has, quote, control of these wax droids, whereas Lister has kind of, quote, control of Crichton's programming. And it just kind of highlights the differences between them because Lister would not wholesale give Crichton orders that he knew would put Crichton in harm's way.
Right.
The way Rimmer does.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, it is a kind of interesting contrast, and obviously, the broke the programming line is usually used in reference to Crichton, so it's interesting.
And then
we get it here.
And then Lister has a great line later when he brings them in, and the explanations are made where Lister goes, "You're not going to get away with this. If you can talk them into it, I can talk them out of it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting, that Rimmer immediately knows that Lister is right, and he has to, get Elvis to point a gun at them, to take them prisoner because otherwise Lister would succeed in talking them out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, I don't like the fact that Rimmer does that. I mean, it's uncomfortable. But I mean, what often
I know one of the point. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say, but I mean, if you take into account Officer Rimmer, I don't think it's entirely out of character for Rimmer, basically.
No,
Especially if
so.
they are accepting, that his projection has been a bit affected by the Mister putting his light being in his mouth, which I think you probably do need to accept in order to be entirely comfortable with his behaviour. I mean, obviously, Rimmer's behaviour is probably part of the reason why this episode wasn't very popular originally.
No, no, he's every bit the bastard that
Yeah.
Some of his apologists don't want to admit he can't be. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rimmer is a he's a wonderful character, and I genuinely do like and sympathise with him, but he can also be terrible, I mean, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if he's not held in check, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And holding that thought. Actually, of course, we go into the inspection. Where he's inspecting his troops. And absolutely loving it. I mean, you can really see there that Chris is from a military family.
About that, like I was wondering how much fun Chris was filming this episode, considering his background. So.
Oh, he does say, I think, in the extras that he loved that bit. I mean, of course, we do get the bit with Saint Francis of Assisi. The sort of steers and queers line. I mean, and obviously, I realise that is I gather it's a line from a film called Full Metal Jacket. I mean, I've actually seen it, but I gather it's from it's a film reference. But.
I've seen it once, but it's been so long ago I had forgotten most of it. So
yeah, but I mean, obviously, in universe, especially if you don't know that, which I didn't know when I first watched it, it just adds to the impression of this man. It has massive internalized homophobia.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you sad, because we then get Noel Coward. I mean, I know it's not the real Noel Coward, but a wax droid of Noel Coward, who, obviously in real life was a gay man, and was interested in the theatre and the kind of things which we know Rimmer is secretly interested in as well, and contrast between this wax droid completely at ease with himself and Rimmer is so marked.
Exactly.
Yeah. sad, you know. Obviously, it does not excuse his behaviour, you know. But I mean, having just seen Dimension Jump and the way he was brought up and stuff, I mean, you know why he ended up where he is now.
Yeah, well, very bad influence from his military obsessed father. So
Yeah. Yes. It's interesting though that interesting in a how very Rimmer way that straight after giving a speech, someone is going to have to turn into soldiers, and that someone is me, and then literally breath. Over to you, Croydon.
uh, Crichton. Crichton
Obviously, I
is
mean, he's
obviously.
more
I mean,
trained
you're watching.
Crichton. He does the strategizing, so to speak.
Right, Crichton is clearly, the one who should be in charge. If anyone should be in charge of this sort of thing, of these people. So
True, yeah. I mean, except obviously Crichton, it's is cooperating very reluctantly, and if it was up to him, he would be doing it, But but I mean, yeah, in theory, I mean, if anyone was going to be in charge, Crichton would be a better bet, really. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Obviously, I mean, I kind of even though Rimmer's tactics are insane, I do kind of get the logic of, well, it's the last thing they'll be expecting a daylight charge over the minefield. Yeah, it's the last thing
there's a reason it's the last thing they're expecting, or the first thing. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And that reason, of course, is because you're going to kill your entire army. Gosh.
Oh, I think, Janamali, I think you made the point in your talking points before this. You're probably going to get to it. I'm sorry to jump ahead, but you had said something about, and it's been on Tumblr too, about the, were the wax droids led to slaughter by Rimmer, or did they have enough free will of their own to go into it? Kind of the big question.
Yeah, I think I think I am about at that stage in my notes here, actually. So yeah, let's discuss that, because I mean, it is an interesting argument, because someone on Tumblr did point out, well, the wax droids are capable of independent thought, then that means they independently chose to follow Rimmer. I mean, you could argue, you could argue that they freely chose to follow him, but then again, they really understand the full ramifications. And then again, of course, as Rimmer points out, they are wax droids. They're not actually human. Obviously, if they were human, then we would not be able to forgive Rimmer. So I mean, they could be human.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that, like, if even if you see them as like pretty much human, like having their own free will, in theory, right? But then, it is true that even in real life, like, humans are led to, like, go to war and do these things and put themselves in danger. And like, I think the message of the episode maybe was supposed to be that this happens similar to what happens in real life, where like, like, people are stirred up to go fight in wars, and even though it's not actually in their own best interests,
or follow stupid leaders.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah.
Obviously, I mean, you could maybe you could. Obviously, it is established early on that wax droids who were considered good, and were maybe sort of more suited to this kind of to fighting in a war, had already been killed. Like, for instance, there was one of John Wayne. I mean, yes, you could argue how good that would have been. But I mean, basically, there's less than 20 of these droids left. So I mean, oh. Maybe Rimmer might possibly have had more success if he'd arrived when there were more wax droids, still around, and some of them were more suited to fighting, or maybe he wouldn't. Who knows?
Or you could argue the wax droids that were killed off were the ones who were more noble and more likely to put themselves in the front line of battle and better leaders.
Yes, you could, of course. Yeah, I mean,
And Rimmer would have never found himself in charge.
yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, this is a random little thing, and slightly jumping ahead, but I want to get it in. I mean, which is I absolutely love, the bit when Crichton is in the Third Reich building and he says, "Iron Duke, this is pawn sacrifice."
Pawn sacrifice.
No, who chose those names? The actual battle. I think the word for it is surreal. He's seeing Marilyn Monroe wielding machine gun.
But doing it pretty well. She looks pretty good doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good for
Sadly.
her. In what other show would you see Marilyn doing that?
Not many.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, I could kind of understand. I mean, I think in the case of Dimension Jump, they were kind of overreacting. Like, I could kind of understand why it didn't want to air this during the Gulf War, because it does show an actual battle, albeit a kind of comedic one that you can't really take seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least they managed to tack it on the end of the run and air it off the war's over. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they were able to air it.
Yeah. I think it's Hattie who points out the commentary when Crichton is in the Third Reich building and Queen Victoria has managed to kill all the remaining bad guys before getting shot herself, and then Rimmer tells him over the intercom to use a thermostat to melt them. I mean, Hattie says, "Well, aren't they all already dead?" I mean, it's a kind of a good point.
Yeah.
I guess he wanted to be absolutely sure.
The definition of overkill.
Yeah. It just shows how far gone he was, right? Like how like he was
I suppose so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of merciless.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I do want to talk about the sort of ending scene, because it is. I find it really interesting the way Lister reacts to Rimmer, because I mean, you can tell he is really, really, really disappointed in him. And obviously I don't blame him in the slightest, but it's kind of interesting, I mean, it's like he's almost too disappointed to be angry. He just, he's just sort of gobsmacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You say disappointed, and you're right. But the note I made to myself, I said, having seen all 30 some odd years of the show, I wrote to a note. I said, I think this might be the most disgusted Lister has ever been with Rimmer.
I think that's true.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking to myself when I rewatched it. I mean, this is probably me being a Lister fangirl. But if Lister was looking at me like that, I would hate myself. I really would. I just can't. The way he's looking at him, he's so disappointed and so disgusted. It's just ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, Cat is also disgusted, but I mean, you would expect that. I mean, but actually, even Cat, to be fair, I mean, even Cat is like, okay, I knew you were bad, but I didn't think you were this bad.
Yeah.
I wonder how long a vacation Rimmer's going to go down to the diesel decks when he emerges.
Long one. I mean, yeah. How do I put this? I mean, the way it ends. I mean, it's poetic justice. It's gross, but it's poetic justice.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to think about it, but I'm sorry. He kind of did deserve it, Yeah.
It's like Lister is literally turning him into the thing that he is looking at him like he's like.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That is a good point. Exactly. That is a perfect way of putting it. You know.
Yeah. I think so. His speech at the end, Lister's speech at the, I think this is one of those times when Craig's like poetry reciting experience was put to good use. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yes, that is a good
always
point.
really appreciate.
very good point.
He really delivers it really well. You know, I mean, it's one of my favourite Lister moments.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, and obviously he is speaking for the audience. You know, the majority of people watching this are going to agree with him. So I mean, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
You hope they will.
Would hope, yeah. I mean, I actually have quite a strong memory. Of course, I mean, this was one of the first episodes, you know, that I sort of watched on airing with my family. And my dad, you know, who wasn't what you would call a fan, he was more of a casual viewer. But I remember him having quite a reaction to this speech, you know, you know, as in, yes, good for you, good for you, well said, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the, I mean, series 4 come to think it was a series that sort of cemented Lister as my favourite. You know, I mean, you know, this and Justice when he refuses to shoot the simulant. You know, just sort of, you know,
Yeah.
you think, you know, yes, he is my favourite character. I like this character.
I can't decide if the low point is this episode or in Rimmer World where he like just abandons them. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Remember, like when he goes into the escape pod. Well,
Right.
I think he like there was kind of an in-story explanation, right, where he was like having heart problems.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. So he had to get out for his own like health or whatever. But yeah, I think for me overall this episode Meltdown is the lower point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To be honest with you, I mean, I did briefly consider recording these in reverse, you know, so that we could end with a dimension jump on a higher note. But I thought that would kind of be dishonest, you know. I have to, you know, I want to do these in the order that they aired, and also to be honest,
Yeah,
it's more true to the spirit of Red Dwarf because you quite often get, you know, these spectacular highs and then you get a low. I think
I like I like the way this ends. You know, you have a whole season, you've got to wait because, as I said, you know, there's when that light bee reemerges, I'd imagine there's going to be some. So there's some hard feelings all around. It's going to take a little time for things to blow over.
Yeah, so it's a good. Maybe it's a good thing that it ended the series, you know, because they can have a breathing space in between series.
So Rimmer really needs to breathe.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh dear. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we should probably mention that Elvis sings a theme tune, you know, which I used to enjoy and now can't really enjoy. But I mean, I do like the fact, you know, that they were experimenting. Howard was experimenting with variations on the theme tune.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Howard. What with this and the Hammond organ one intervention jump? I mean, it's nice that he was experimenting creatively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How would both of you rate it? Firstly, overall out of 10, and then for slashiness out of 10.
Let me see. Overall, I would say like 8 out of 10, something around there. It is like I don't know if it's one of my favorite episodes, but it's up there. It's up there. And then for slasher.
My instinct is that this episode is slushy, albeit in a gross way, but it is slushy.
Yeah, in a gross way, yeah. Yeah.
So,
maybe like 7 out of 10, something like that.
Okay, and how about you, Vera?
Overall, I would probably give it and this is not to negate anyone's else rating, I would probably give it a 6, just because it is good. It's not a bad episode, but I'm spoiled by knowing all the other episodes around. There's a lot of episodes, so I feel like it's a 6. I think that's just my own personal. It's not that it's a bad episode. It's just I don't respond to it as strongly as I do to some others. But like I said in the beginning, it does make good use of what science fiction ought to do in the allegorical sense, I think. In slashiness, I don't know that those two are that slashy, except for Caligula alone, I'll give it a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. The light bee in the mouth thing, going way back to the beginning, I guess. I was thinking that, well, I know, as you said, like, it's partly just, like, how Craig is, but the fact that Lister is so comfortable doing that, it's interesting. It reminds me of an early episode. I think it was, I can't remember now. I think, like, Lister had borrowed, like, Rimmer's clothes or something. It's a series more. And it's
where he's wearing his shirt.
Yeah, and just the level of, like, sort of comfort he had. It's like strangely intimate, right? So in a weird way, the light bee scene reminds me of that. That it's just like.
Well, and there's a good point too that only someone who you could only be that disappointed in someone's behavior if you had some high hopes or some sort of regard for them.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a bar in the first place for Rimmer to fall under it, so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My own score out of 10. Well, I mean, I've always thought this is a quality episode, so I mean, and I've always enjoyed it. So I think overall, out of 10, I'm going to give it 8. I think, admittedly, Caligula is propping that score up a lot, but still. Yeah. And what's the lastiness out of 10? 7, I think. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you, RoseCathy. I mean, again, Caligula really ups that, and particularly all the stuff with the light bee. I mean, it's gross. I agree, it's gross, but it's also slushy. So there you go. That wraps up this episode of Smeg and the Femmes. Thank you to Hologramet for technical help. Also, thank you to my guests, Veronica Rich and RoseCathy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to give us feedback, you can do so on Tumblr or Discord, on posts where I've linked this episode. You can also email us at smegandthefemmes@gmail.com. And one more thing regarding our episode archive. We're in the middle of transferring it from Buzzsprout to YouTube. So if you're looking for earlier episodes, then just search for Smeg and the Femmes on YouTube. And next time around, we'll be starting the extremely popular series 5, and that will be with the Rimmer-centric episode Hollow Ship. Hope you'll join us then. For now, goodbye.